Up to Siman Lamed Beis, we're halfway through Sif Tes Vav, and we have to finish now, Sif Tes Vav. This is now beginning the content of what if there's a hole that is developed in the letter itself. So now part of the letter is missing. So it's very important to understand which letter. Certain letters, there's a concept, as we'll see in a few moments, that you ask a child to look and see, because now part of the letter is missing. Now part of the letter could be missing because there's a hole in the letter. By the way, that hole had to have developed afterwards, because if the hole was before, then it's not mukaf gvil, which we said last time is puzzle. But let's say the hole developed afterwards, or much simpler, it's scratched out, it peeled off, part of the letter peeled off. So now, what's the halacha? So it very much depends on which letter it is. So the Mechaber says like this: the first part he's going to be dealing with is a hay. Now within the hay, a hay is a dalid with a little hanging leg. The hanging leg is the left leg, right? If you're facing it, it's the left. We're going to first focus on the left leg. So the Mechaber sheet is like this: Nikav regel pnimi shel hay, afilu nisha mimenu ela kolshu kashel harash. According to the Rosh, even if there's just a little scratch that's left over, a little bit of ink on the left side, it's enough. The Rosh's shita is that left hanging leg does not have a shear. It doesn't need to be the size of the smallest letter, which is a yud. So let's say a yud needs to be a centimeter. I'm making it up. This small left leg doesn't even need to be a centimeter. So as long as a little bit is left, it's kosher. So this is negeya if it was a hole. It's negeya if it peeled off or if it cracked. Because a crack is like you're missing the bottom part. So as long as there's a little bit left, it's kosher. That's the sheet of the Rosh. Zok the Ramah, aval shar poiskim atzrichim kamali ois ketana. The Ramah says everyone else disagrees and says no. That left hanging leg needs to be the size of a yud. So that means that if there's a hole, we don't just say there's like a little sliver on top. That's not enough. It needs to be the size of a yud. Now, how do we paskin? Says the Ramah, v'hachi hilchasa, and that is the psak. The Mishnah Berurah points out that when the Ramah says v'hachi hilchasa, he's not being machmer. He's saying we paskin that way. Ashkenazim paskin that way. Says the Mishnah Berurah, midvarav elu mashmer d'loy lahachmer b'lvad pasek adashar paiskim. He's not just being machmer. A pshita lei the halacha kavasai. We paskin that the left leg of the hay needs to be the size of a yud. This is negeya. If you ever look in your tefillin or a mezuzah, you got to know these things. So if the left leg, according to the Rosh, it could be any sliver. That would also mean if you wrote a really small left leg, sometimes you'll go to a Sefer Torah, you'll get an aliyah, and you'll notice something. So what if you have a left leg of a hay that's just tiny, like a little sliver down? According to the Rosh, it's fine. According to the Ramah, it's a problem. So the Mishnah Berurah points out, it's also negeya, can you fix it? Sefer Torah, you could fix any letter. But tefillin and mezuzahs have to be written in order, which means if that left leg is a problem, you can't just fix it. You'd have to erase everything after that and rewrite everything after that, which is obviously very, very challenging. That's the first part. So that's the left leg of the hay, fine. Zokt the Mechaber Vayter. Now what about the right leg of the hay? So the part that goes down, the part that's connected. So that nikav regel hayamini in nishtar mimenu mole ois ketana kosher v'mlav pasel. With the right leg of the hay, it's very simple. Let's say there's a hole, or it gets scratched off, or it gets cracked. Measure from that to the roof. If it's the size of a yud, you're fine. I have a picture over here. You basically you measure. Let's say there's a hole over there. Measure from there to the roof. If it's a yud, you're fine. If not, not. Now, this is true by a hay. The Mishnah Berurah points out in Mem Beis, this is also true with a dalid, a lamid, an endepay, an endetzadi, a kuf, a reish, a taf, and a ches. The reason why this is all true is because, as we're going to see in a moment, there's such a concept that you ask a child. There's no purpose of asking a child over here, because I'll tell you why. Look at the letter lamid. If there's a hole on the bottom, it's still so clear. It has such a distinctive top. You don't need to ask a child. That's just a matter of, is there a yud left? It's the proper letter. If not, not. So all these letters, they don't look like any other letter. So there's no need to ask a child. You just measure, is it the size of a yud? Good. If not, not. Now, where is the concept of asking a child? So this we're going to start now, but we're not going to be able to finish it properly. And that is, the Mechaber says in Tezayin. We'll start Tezayin, but super long. We'll continue the next 2 days. Nifsik achas meha'oyisius hapshutas. You have the following letters: a vav, a zayin, a nun. If you have a vav that the bottom is missing, you know what it turns into? a yud. So those letters, I can't measure it. Those letters, because the top might look like other letters, then what you have to do is you have to ask a child. Now, by the way, it's interesting that Biur Halacha brings down, which I had this case, by this Sefer Torah. By the Hashavina Sefer Torah, I got an Aliyah, and I noticed that there was a Zion that looked very short to me. Looked like a very short Zion. So it happens to be the Seifer was here, when the Seifer was checking the mezuzahs and the tefillin. I asked him to look at it. He said it was fine. He didn't think that it was too short. He felt that it was fine. But the Zion is interesting because the Mechaber says you should have a child look at it, but a Zion top is very wide, and the bar is in the middle. You look at a Zion top does not look like a Yud, and it doesn't look like a Vav. It has a very distinct top. So the Biur Halacha brings down from the Pri Megadim. The Pri Megadim says it could be by a Zion. You don't have to ask a child, because what's the point? The Zion top looks distinct. Has crowns. The bar is not to the right like a Vav, it's in the center. But anyway, the kids say you should still ask a child. So let's just see, Mechaber will start this. Nifsak achas ma'oisius, hapshutas, kain Vav, Zion, ashenisak regel, ukiyotzeboy, menun. So here's what you do. You ask a child, im tinik she'eni yedeh ena lechachim v'lo tipish. You ask a child who's not wise and who's not dumb. As we'll see tomorrow what this exactly means. You ask an average child, yedeh likros, a child that could read Hebrew, kosher. If he could read it, and he says it's the proper letter, kosher, v'im lav puzzle. But if not, it's going to be puzzle. By the way, you don't have to cover up the next letters, because sometimes the child can figure out from the context of the word. You don't have to cover it up. Look at the whole thing. Just he looks at it, he figures it out. Now, by the way, I'll just end with this. An interesting psak from the Mishnah Berurah. What if the leg of a vav is cracked halfway? Cracked is as if it's not there. The problem is if you ask a child to read it, it still looks like a vav because the crack doesn't get rid of the bottom part. So what you have to do is you have to cover from the crack down with a piece of paper so that all he sees is from the crack up, and then he could decipher. I will stop here.